The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to The Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam, recording immediately after the Lakers game. How you doing, Sam?
Immediately after a thrashing of the Los Angeles Lakers. Was that game number 3 against the Lakers this season?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, 2 more to go.
2 blowouts by the Suns and one extremely frustrating ref-led game.
And I think, first of all, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Merry Christmas, everyone. Most people are probably listening to this around Christmas Eve-ish, maybe, I think. Mm-hmm. So Merry Christmas. Things are pretty good in Suns land right now, I'd say. I just came, obviously the Suns came fresh off this win. I just posted, kind of like to put a ribbon on it. This game against the Lakers tonight felt like the end of this gauntlet schedule that we've been talking about for so long. Like, when is it going to ease up? They're playing Minnesota multiple times, Houston multiple times, Denver maybe only once in there, OKC multiple times, Lakers multiple times, Golden State multiple times. Oh my God, does it ever stop? Well, we finally reached the other side of it, I think. You know, not that there aren't going to continue to be tough opponents in the schedule up ahead, but like just playing contender after contender, we could have a conversation about if the Lakers even are contenders after these 2 games. That might be interesting. But we have finally gotten to the temporary end of this gauntlet, and the results are that the Suns went 7-7 in their past 14 games against exclusively playoff teams, with the exception of one win that they had against Sacramento in there. And they were missing Devin Booker for periods. They were missing Jalen Green for all of it. Missing Grayson Allen for a lot of it. I like, you know, it would be one thing to come out and like beat the Lakers again on home court and have like a 3 or 4 point victory, kind of like a lot of these have been. It felt meaningful tonight that this was not just a win, but a thrashing to me.
The game was over 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, basically. And I mean that it was probably over before that, like halfway through the third quarter, but like they actually checked in the bench guys. Like it was over. It was garbage time 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. It really did feel like a really great game. A game where everything was sort of clicking for the Suns. I think missing Grayson Allen again, which we could talk about Grayson. Hopefully he's able to get back relatively soon. The Suns just have yet to play a game where they're at full health entirely. Obviously, we know that with Jalen Green, but even without Jalen Green, it's been a while since they've been able to play a team at full health outside of Jalen Green, because Devin Booker missed games, Grayson Allen was missing games, and of course, here we are with them playing without Grayson Allen in this game. They
Colin Gillespie started the majority, those 14 games I just talked about. He's had to start almost all of them, maybe 10 of them or something.
Yeah, I think he has been such an X factor in the games that they win. The games where they've struggled recently, because, you know, like there was a chance that if the Suns lost to this Lakers team in this game, that we would have had to come on this podcast and talk about if the bloom was off the rose a little bit for the Suns, or if they were falling back down to earth a little bit because of the recent losses. And I think some of those recent losses that the Suns have had have been a result of Colin Gillespie kind of being contained defensively, other teams containing him defensively, and his offense not quite being what it is. But man, when he's able to get going offensively, the Suns just have multiple guys that can affect the offense in really great ways. And of course, Devin Booker, who seems to be back, right? I mean, we could talk a little bit about him not hitting threes still. That'll be a conversation until it's not. He seemed afraid to take him in this game. But in Devin Booker and Colin Gillespie just has a really interesting impact on the offense when he's playing well, because it's so different than Devin Booker. It's so quick, and his movements are so fast and determined, and he's able to shoot so quickly on the ball and off the ball. But in this game, he finished with 16 points, 8 assists. I guess we can start with him. 3 steals, by the way, as well in this game. When he plays well, the Suns just tend to play really well. It's like really important for him to have a good game if the Suns want to win against good teams.
I mean, look, you just said it. Devin Booker's still not hitting his threes, and I think Book had a great game, and we'll get there in a second. But if Grayson's going to be out, and if Jalen's going to be out, and if that's going to be the case with Book for however long that's the case, there's only one other guy on this team, maybe, who can really, hit that pull-up three, and that's Colin Gillespie. And there are a couple of other three-point shooters. I thought it was really important that we got a good Royce game tonight. We got a good Dillon Brooks game tonight. I mean, this was kind of just the rare game where you look up and down the box score, and I just don't think there was a single guy who played poorly, which is awesome. But yeah, Gillespie's been massively important when he can get his offense going because of what that opens up for the rest of the guys. It's a combination of when he plays poorly, they struggle. When Mark Williams is contained, I think the team struggles. Or maybe it's almost like the inverse of that, which is that when the team is already playing well, that's when you kind of get the Mark Williams, 16 points, 12 rebound type performances, instead of the Mark Williams, he has 4 points and 4 rebounds in 26 minutes type game that also, has happened over the past few weeks. And then, of course, Dillon Brooks. I don't think Dillon Brooks is going to change the way he plays almost no matter what. But certainly over the past few weeks, especially in those games where Booker was out, we saw defenses shifting their coverages against Brooks, making life more difficult for him. And ultimately, there are just going to be games sometimes where the ridiculous, like, one-legged turnaround fadeaways, whatever he's taking, don't fall. Mm-hmm. Tonight was another awesome night where they did fall. And he had 25 points. Just listen to the stat line. I'm sure you already know. 24 minutes for Dillon Brooks. 25 points. 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 0 turnovers. 0 technical fouls. Plus 20.
0 technical fouls is almost the most impressive one. After the last game against the Lakers, yeah.
He's going to get suspended at some point.
Yes. I mean, he's already, halfway there?
We're 29 games into the season out of 82, obviously. And he's halfway, I think maybe even more than halfway to the limit where you get suspended for a game. Yeah, he's going to get suspended at some point. I just hope it's not at like a critical juncture of the season where it's like game 81 and, they're a half game out of the 6th seed. To not have to be in the play-in or something, and Dillon Brooks gets suspended, right? Because that would drive us all crazy. But yeah, we probably just need to make our peace with that because he's well on track. But none tonight.
It's just an absurd season for him. I just, of all the things for him to be this good at, like shooting self-created 2-point shots was just not the thing that I expected him to be this good at. He 25-point games. He has the most of his career already this season since he played in Memphis. I think it was the 1920 season in Memphis. So he's at 7 25 or more point games. The most he's ever had in a season is 12. It would be surprising if he did not surpass that this season. Now, I will say, like, one of the reasons he's even been allowed to or able to shoot this many shots is because of the Suns' injury situation. They've been missing so many guys who have been important to them offensively as far as taking shots. But if he can maintain this level of efficiency in self-created shots, even if he sort of moves down the line, I mean, you could make the case that maybe he shouldn't move down the line in who should shoot. Like, maybe he should remain the guy who shoots the second most shots throughout the season. But even if he does move down the line, say, obviously, Devin Booker, number 1, Jalen Green, number 2, you could make the case that Grayson Allen should be number 3 there just because of his efficiency and how he started the season. Dillon Brooks, number 4, I guess. Mark Williams, number 5, I don't know. Even if he does move down that line, if you get to the playoffs and he's able to play in any way like he is, it's going to be important to have another guy that the ball swings to with 7 seconds left on the shot clock that could potentially create and make his own shot. The Suns just didn't have another guy like that last year. It was supposed to be, there are guys who could do it, but like, or just not guys like him.
Infrequently in general. Like, look, okay, not getting ahead of ourselves, I'm not calling this a finals team at this point, right? But if we rewind a few years back to when the Suns literally did make the finals, I feel like one of the things we were constantly talking about that team is, as much as they were a well-oiled, efficient machine offensively, and they were really good defensively too, in the playoffs, when defenses tightened up on a smaller backcourt in Chris Paul, and at the time, obviously Chris Paul and Devin Booker, something we were constantly talking about was, well, okay, these guys who have been role players all season long, the Cam Johnson, the Mikal Bridges, the Jay Crowder, what can they give you in terms of their ability to just attack a closeout, forget attack a mismatch? And what Dillon Brooks is doing right now, of his ability to potentially be put in those positions down the road, again, not calling this a finals team, but let's just talk about what they might look like in a first-round playoff series. I have a lot of confidence that I didn't have before in his ability to do those things, and to be like the surprise guy who wins you a playoff game and scores, 24, 25 points. That's not something that I think, did Mikal ever do that as a Sun? Did Cam Johnson ever do that? But did they in the playoffs? I don't remember.
In the playoffs? Yeah, probably.
Did either of those guys have like a 25-point game in the playoffs?
Mikal had one against New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken. From my memory.
Someone look it up and prove
You know
me
who
wrong.
did Cameron Payne?
I love Cameron Payne. We'll talk about Cameron Payne maybe again when we talk about Jamari Bouye later in this episode. Dillon's been great. I had something else to say about Dillon, but it's going to come to me.
8 technical fouls so far this season. I believe it's 16 when you get suspended.
I know what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
He's just so fucking good at rage baiting LeBron. That's what I wanted to say. He's so good at it. And it makes him so fun to watch.
It really is interesting to be like on the side of Dillon Brooks throughout these games against the Lakers in particular, because he really gets into his head a little bit more than you would have anticipated. And it's probably because LeBron's not quite the guy he used to be, because I think before LeBron did a good job of holding it together against Dillon Brooks. But I really think there's sort of a game within a game going on at all times when those two are on the court. And
he can't
so far Dillon Brooks has won 2 of those, and LeBron's won 1.
and outscored him tonight. Dillon Brooks had 25. LeBron James had 23.
Yeah.
And LeBron cannot just sleepwalk his way to 30 points.
Yeah.
Like maybe he could in 2019 when Dillon Brooks was on the Grizzlies and was a nobody. There was a play in the second quarter, when this was a competitive game, far before this game was over. LeBron is on the line. And Dillon Brooks just like flagrantly commits a lane violation as LeBron is shooting a free throw, just like walks across the paint, starts like 2 seconds before LeBron starts shooting this free throw. And if it were anyone else, I would have thought, oh, okay, he screwed up. But because it was Dillon Brooks, and I just wanted to ask, and I wanted to bring this up because I want to know if you had the same thought. I was like, is he doing this intentionally?
Yes.
Because LeBron missed the free throw, and then it was the most obvious lane violation you've ever seen in your life. They give him another one, and I think he makes the next one. But it's like, is Dillon Brooks just playing the game within the game there?
He went on to shoot 6 for 11 from the free throw line, by the way, LeBron.
It was so funny. So funny.
It was absolutely, I mean, with him, yeah, I think you could absolutely say that it was on purpose. It was, by design, if you will. He was trying to just mess with him a little bit. And, by the way, in a way that won't really get him a technical foul, which is good for Dillon Brooks, right? He's not doing something physical that could get him in trouble and get him out of the game. We needed him in this game. The Suns don't have a lot of guys that can match up against LeBron, although Ryan Dunn has done a good job. I will say Dillon Brooks is the only guy strength-wise that has any chance of matching up with him. But, it's just, in this game, too, he was 10 for 15. I imagine he's scored quite a bit of points in every game against the Lakers so far this season. I don't remember the last one. Points-wise, he only played 20-something minutes, right, because of his foul trouble in that game. But was 10 for 15 in this one. Just so many of the shots are shots that are really difficult shots that he, not only does he make them, he makes them in a way where the ball just like barely sneaks over the rim. Because he doesn't get any arc on his shot. It's just a flat shot and not good form. And it's worked all season. And it's like hard to argue with the results for him. It's worked all season. And by the way, it does seem like a little bit more his 3-point shot is coming back to him. He's 3 for 6 in this game. He has struggled from the 3-point line so far this season. Probably some of that is just the amount of responsibility has been placed on him offensively, and he just isn't getting a ton of catch and shoot threes, but he has been getting more catch and shoot threes lately. And I really hope that 40% 3-point shooter that was there, 39% I think he finished with last season, comes back this season, because it would be really nice to see him getting some easy shots every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a stat on that I happened to bring up because I was looking at this recently. The Suns won some games recently, even as they've really been struggling with their wide open threes. Again, I think a lot of that is just limited, Book struggling, but then also limited Grayson minutes recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
Royce O'Neal in a slump.
Royce O'Neal in a slump. I think all of that has really hurt their ability to just make open threes because, Royce, Grayson, Gillespie are the three guys who are absolutely carrying their ability to make wide open shots. As you would expect, because maybe they're the best shooters, but the Suns are on the season, and maybe this is an optimistic stat if you think about it, like take a glass half full approach that this will get better, but they're 6th in the NBA in generating wide open threes. They take the 6th most wide open threes. A wide open three, according to the NBA's website, is defined as closest defender is at least 6 feet away. So they're 6th in generating them. They're 21st in percentage on those shots at 37%. There are many teams that are above 40. And then there's also like Detroit, not Denver, Detroit and Dallas, I think, are at the bottom. Like there's a couple teams that are shooting 30% on wide open threes on the season, which is crazy. But Brooks is at 31% on wide open threes this season. That number has to go up. You just assume that it has to go up. And if it does, then that's gonna aid him a lot in his overall season percentage to get back to where it has been in his career. Devin Booker is at 22% on wide open threes this season. Now, I will say the caveat here, he barely takes these because he is the guy who always has the responsibility on his shoulders. That like he takes one wide open three a game, so it's a sample size of like 20 shots. It's not that big.
Yeah, and the defense never leaves him. Yeah,
exactly. Guys like Gillespie, Royce, Grayson, these are guys who take and even Brooks. These are guys who take 3, 4, 5 of these shots a game. So that's where you can trust the sample size more. But yeah, Brooks and Booker have really struggled, and hopefully they just start making those open shots at a higher clip.
Yeah, I think the Suns really need that. They've struggled a little bit recently, I think, to win a couple of games. And, a couple of those have been due to a lack of 3-point shooting. Let's talk about Devin Booker, though. He finished this one with 21 points, 7 for 14 shooting, 11 assists in 3 quarters, right? An important thing to point out. I think he could have easily finished with more points. And, the assist-wise, I think he was really dishing in this game. The offense was so easy when he was out there because just 1 or 2 dribbles beyond the 3-point line, and either he was going to get fouled, hit a mid-range shot, or create a wide open three for someone based on the way the Lakers were defending him. I think for me, what I've seen from Devin Booker lately is he's getting to his mid-range spots, he's raising up from those spots, and he's hitting those shots. This is the last, 2.5 games basically for him that we've seen. It was the Warriors game where he had 38, I think he finished with against the Warriors. And then the previous game where he took off the core shorts, I forget who the opponent was on that one, though.
That was the other Warriors game because we played them
Yes, that's right. The other Warriors game where the second half, he looks more like himself. And I think that has given me a lot of confidence that he seems to be okay, because there was a little bit of fear that I had where his shots were missing so poorly or so badly in some games after he came back from injury, but not just that. Before that as well, he struggled specifically from the 3-point line. But I think the 3-point struggles, I think, are worrying. But when he starts to miss the mid-range shots really badly, that's when I got really concerned. And I think that has sort of started to, his games lately have started to alleviate at least that concern for me.
Yeah, he looks comfortable in the mid-range again, going to his sort of bread and butter, working a pick and roll, and then like getting a guy in a hostage dribble on his hip into the step back, the one dribble step back at that point. Like that's Devin Booker's bag. That's classic Devin Booker. He just looked really good doing that tonight. The 3-point shot needs to come back at some point if he's going to be like, a superstar for a playoff team. And I just have to trust that it will. I continue to ask myself why. Because it is by far, at least as I can remember, the coldest 3-point shooting spell of his entire career, man. Like, can you remember another time like this where I think he dipped under 30% again on the season after tonight. And I'm just wondering why those shots look so flat. And more specifically, I know he's dealing with a groin. I know he's dealt with other stuff in the past, whether it be a calf, hamstring, obviously, several hamstring issues. But like, what's weird about it to me, he looks fine defensively. Yeah. Wouldn't you expect it to show up there before it actually shows up on the 3-point shot? Like, you would expect to see it on defensive breakdowns. And I don't see that in watching Book right now. But the shot is just flat as hell. Yeah. Like, from 3, the mid-range is better.
Yeah, and we'll see going forward if he only took 2 in this game, and really, like, he didn't need to, because I do think in games like this where the defense is playing this poorly, the way the Lakers are playing defense, it's really important for him to get downhill and try to create shots for other guys, because, like, obviously it worked really well in this game. But when he has those lanes, he has to take them. There's just nobody else that can drive. Even if Dillon Brooks creates on his own, it's more of like a bulldozer than it is like finesse. And then, of course, we know Colin Gillespie can do a lot, but Colin Gillespie even struggles with that a little bit. I think Colin Gillespie might have one dribble move that he uses to get into the lane, and it's the behind-the-back dribble that he uses consistently and significantly, like a lot. Sometimes he'll, on a single drive, he'll go behind his back 3 times in order to get to his spot. But it's not, no one can do it with the ease that Devin Booker does it. And until Jalen Green gets back, or even Grayson Allen, and ideally both of them, Devin Booker needs to be intent on driving. But we'll see if that shot starts coming back when other guys can help create some for him. I've spent years chasing great coffee, and I finally found a roaster worth sharing, Alchemy Roast. Before I say anything else, you can get it shipped to you at alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline for 10% off today. Now let me tell you why it's worth it. Alchemy Roast is a small batch roastery in Metro Phoenix that treats coffee like a true craft. Ethically sourced beans, thoughtful roasting, and incredible flavor in every batch. I recently made espresso with their Colombian beans, and it was honestly the best cup of coffee I've made at home. What really sets them apart is their mission. They study every bean to highlight its best natural qualities and roast for cafes, offices, events, and everyday coffee lovers. Their philosophy, do good, get good in, give good out, shows up in everything they do. Fair trade sourcing, supporting small farms, organic practices, and eco-friendly compostable products. Full field to fork traceability. They're serious about quality and serious about leaving a good footprint. If you want to taste it for yourself, head to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline today for 10% off your order. Support them, support us. alchemyroaster.com, promo code Timeline. You'll taste the difference.
Speaking of guys developing one move, have you noticed recently, like, Ryan Dunn is big on the kind of step through, like, Euro step kind of dribble on drives to the basket now? Like, he's trying that a lot, and I don't think the percentage is particularly high. But it's just, like, another thing I noticed recently is like, oh yeah, he's trying to not run every single defender over and just constantly be called for the charge, which is good.
He even tried the Dwayne Wade, gather dribble on one of his drives, the one where he sort of palms it over the defender's head. Didn't quite work in this one. I will say, they played the garbage time minutes, right, late in this game, and it was Bouye. We should talk about Bouye, by the way.
We will. We'll get
Bouye, there. Dunn, Fleming, Malawach, and Nigel Hayes-Davis.
And they looked huge.
But what I thought was particularly interesting about those minutes, they were running the offense through Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn was the guy. He was essentially a point forward in those minutes. Did it look good? No. It didn't really look good. But, I think it was clear from the perspective of Jordan Ott, we have real NBA game minutes. Look, against the bench of another team, but we have real NBA game minutes. What are we going to do with this time? We're going to get guys in. We're going to let them get on the floor, get their feet wet a little bit. What else are we going to do? Should we just let Bouye cook? Would have been fun for me. Bouye had a good game, but what he did instead was put the ball in Ryan Dunn's hands and then see what he could do with it, because it was sort of inconsequential. Even if the Suns got outscored in those minutes by 15 points, they would have still won by 15 or whatever. It was like a 30-point game by the time that started. So it was just kind of interesting to see what somebody like Jordan Ott could do in the minutes where they had the opportunity to give guys the opportunity to develop. I don't think I would have guessed that it would have been Ryan Dunn sort of running the offense in those minutes.
No, I would never have guessed that either. But it does show a certain dedication to already be thinking about kind of next year and beyond. And there's some really interesting stuff in terms of what they can do with Malawach and Fleming. By the way, again, don't think it's any coincidence. Malawach eventually checked in with like 5 minutes left, but Rasheer Fleming basically played the entire fourth quarter. He checked in with maybe 10 minutes. And that was no coincidence in terms of how Jordan Ott, I think, feels about the differences in those two rookies. I think he shows time and time again that, not that he has a ton of confidence in either guy, otherwise they might already be playing. But I think he definitely views Rasheer Fleming on more of an accelerated timeline than Kaman Malawach. And I think, from the fan perspective, we see that too. But I'm telling you guys, it's coming with Rasheer. Second half of this season, he's going to be playing.
That one rebound he got in this game where he just jumped up and just sort of like his arms just stretched up and grabbed the ball, or even the first dunk that he got, he was just deep under the rim and he just popped out like he was on a trampoline and just easily flushed it. He's just so athletic and so long. And it's like you had the tweet today about his length, his wingspan.
Yeah.
What is it? His arms are longer than who?
Jared Allen and Jaren Jackson Jr.
And it's just like
his listed wingspan is 7'4".
It's like his arms are loud out there, when you're watching the game.
Yeah.
It's impossible for your eyes not to be drawn to just how long his arms are.
And he's not, again, I'm sorry to disrespect a player who I liked a lot as a Sun for a second time in 15 minutes, but he's not twiggy like Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, he's huge.
Who is very long, but like couldn't necessarily muscle anyone up. Like Rasheer Fleming is really, if he develops, and then we can move on, because I understand he barely played tonight, but like if he develops, the vision of what you have there is just a center's body with a power forward shooting and agility, and that's a really, really useful thing to have in your ability to play these dual big lineups that just constantly create more possessions for you versus the other side.
Jamaree Bouye, 24 minutes, 14 points, 7 for 10 shooting, which, by the way, I think he finished. Yeah, he did. He finished 7 for 7.
From deep.
Yeah, 7 for 7 from the 2-point range, including, 4 or 5 mid-range shots that he created for himself? At least 4.
Yeah, few of them on Austin Reeves, just targeting Austin Reeves in the first quarter. Austin Reeves comes into the game. He was questionable. What is Austin Reeves' injury? Like a calf or something?
Yes, it was calf, I believe.
Okay. Or it's a leg injury or something. I think maybe Luka was out for the calf injury.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But Austin Reeves, it was a lower body something. So he's going to be on a minutes restriction.
Yeah.
And he comes in halfway through the first quarter. And Jamaree Bouye, this is why he just rocks, man. Like, he hasn't even been playing that much in these games. He's playing 10 to 15 minutes. Tonight he played more because of garbage time. But in most of these games, he gets a stint, at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, and a smaller stint at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth. He plays his 12 or 14 minutes, and then he gets out. But in those 12 or 14 minutes, he is fearless. And he was cooking Austin Reeves coming off the bench for the Lakers tonight in a really profoundly satisfying way.
His first play of the game, there was this sort of double on a Devin Booker screen. Devin Booker swung it to Jamaree at the top of the key, and then sort of Devin Booker sunk down into the wing and then was open at the wing. But Jamaree Bouye didn't even look. As soon as he saw Austin Reeves in front of him, just went directly to the rim and scored on him. And it's just really impressive to see what he's done with the minutes that he's gotten. He literally was not signed on a roster at the beginning of this season, not even a two-way contract. The Suns had to cut CJ Huntley in order to make the space to sign Jamaree Bouyea because of all the injuries that they've had so far this year. And he's come onto the Suns and he plays significant minutes for them for a two-way player and has played really well, been really, really efficient so far this season. I talked about it. I think with his last shot, he's shooting 70% from the 2-point range so far this season, which is just insane. He's a little bit longer, I think, than you would expect him to be. Often on his drives to the rim, you think he's going for a layup and he turns it over at the rim, like he dunks it at the rim. And then, of course, we've talked about it maybe more so when we're talking about our Hustle Player of the Week on the Patreon podcast, but gets steals and blocks because of that length. He deserves a lot of credit, and I think so does everyone else involved with this, of course, right? Leadership-wise, the coaching staff. Obviously, when you talk about leadership, you got to talk about the players on the team too. They got to make guys feel comfortable as well. Shooting those shots, because sometimes guys don't feel comfortable coming in and doing that. So the players matter too, and then of course the front office for finding him and getting him to play. I think it's really significant that they have an option if guys are missing. Will he be great every game? No, probably not. He's probably going to have bad games every once in a while too. But the fact that occasionally he can be counted on to play 24 minutes in a game against a playoff team and play well, it's just really unexpected. I mean, we didn't even know anything about him when he was signed to the team.
No, and he had to your point, he had played for like 6 teams already, but always on these 10-day contracts or 2-way contracts, but not really playing. And even now, Jamaree Bouyea played his 32nd total NBA game today against the Lakers. So, like, what's the sample size and how much of a known quantity is he to us still? We don't really know, but I think he's done more than enough at this point to be a guy who's like deserving of a guaranteed NBA contract. I don't know. I compared him to what Colin Gillespie was last year, and really both guys as good examples of how well the Suns are doing at resetting the culture so far in the Ishbia era of like, this is what it's all about. It's one thing to replenish your asset pool and draft well, and like we all want them to do that. But also just to like pluck guys out of nowhere who no one knew anything about and then turn them into playable role players in year 1 and then maybe like starting level players in year 2, like you did with Colin Gillespie here. That's how you attain heat culture or whatever the hell that team thinks they have. And heat culture is a punchline, as it should be. But on the other hand, it's also something we've always been a little bit envious of.
100%.
Why aren't the Suns using their G League? Why aren't they finding these types of players who are undrafted and turning them into good role players who then you lock up for 4 years, $16 million total or whatever, and just like rock? And Jamaree Bouyea could be that. It's going to be difficult to find minutes for him on a team where Jalen Green and Grayson Allen are fully healthy.
And Colin Gillespie.
But also, you just can't let this guy go. I just don't think you can let him go with how well he's played.
Even if they do, because I think there's a chance that they might. I mean, this is all way too early to talk about, but I think it's clear that if he continues to play the way he is, or better, right, then he has earned a spot in the NBA, whether that be with the Suns or someone else, and that's a credit to him, and that's a credit to the Suns for finding a player like him, and I hope he does, because it's a cool story. I think to have guys like him and then Colin Gillespie last year, just like you said, find a way to the Suns, and then get underplayed last year because the coach was bad, and then Colin Gillespie just having the season that he's having so far this year.
Kobe Brea will be that guy next year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Highest ceiling of any prospect on the Suns. Those who remember me saying that in
That's
preseason, right. I stand by it.
That's right.
On our episode with Kellen Olson.
You got a classic reaction from Kellen Olson on that one. Who do you want to talk about next, Royce or Mark? I want to talk about both these guys.
What a tempting proposition that is. Let's talk about Mark.
Okay. Really good game.
You want to talk about the good and the bad?
Yeah, I mean, this was a good game for Mark Williams, I think. I think Mark Williams will be at his best when he's playing more of a traditional center. After the 2 Warriors games, we had a conversation on the Patreon podcast that I'll just extend a little bit here too so that everyone could hear it. He struggles against stretch bigs. He struggles a little bit in those games because not only Is the offense a little bit more complex? Is the offense require a little bit more movement in space from him? It also takes him away from the rim in a way that takes away his rebounding, which is, I think, one of his biggest weapons for the Suns, because he's such a great rebounder when he's at the rim. But if he's chasing guys out on the perimeter, big men out on the perimeter, then there's a chance that he's not going to get the rebounds to affect the game in the way that he does. But when he plays against guys like DeAndre, and he can have a great game, and it just requires effort from him. He runs the floor consistently, 7 for 8 in this game, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists.
I actually think it's worth noting, even though we blew out the Lakers tonight, when it was a competitive game in the first half, Ayton was no slouch. And I've been very critical of DeAndre Ayton over the years, but I actually thought Ayton was playing really well in the first half and bringing a certain energy. I thought he was one of the only Lakers bringing energy in the first half.
Yeah, he tries against the Suns, for sure. I mean, he's been good this season in general, but he definitely brings a little extra against the Suns.
And Mark Williams could have, laid over and taken that, I guess, but he didn't. He opened the second half with even more energy and just really ran the floor hard every single time down the floor, and that's what he's been so good at this year. That combination, plus he puts himself in position to finish off a play, but then also it's on his teammates to recognize that, and then also again on him to have the hands to catch tough passes sometimes and actually finish those plays.
Yeah.
It just separates him from so many other bigs who, might be athletic, might be fast, but don't have the ability to just like reel in passes like a wide receiver like he does sometimes.
It's really impressive. And for him, it's like, maybe it's a little boring to even talk about, but the fact that his effort is there consistently, whether he gets the ball or not, has a pretty large impact on the team. And it's really impressive because, look, it takes a lot more to move around a body that big. And he doesn't stop. He just goes and goes and goes. And you just got to give someone credit who does that really consistently. Royce, 4 for 5 in this game, all threes. 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, 1 steal. Royce O'Neal has been not very good lately. And with Royce, like, a lot of it is about his 3-point shooting. Like, if he's hitting threes, it's going to really affect the team. If he's not hitting threes, the rest of his game has suffered a little bit, halfway through last season and this season. His defense is not the same as what it was before. He was never like an excellent defender, but he was pretty solid earlier in his career. He gets blown by a lot. We've talked about it. Number 1 in blow-bys this season based on a stat that we saw online that we have no way of corroborating. But it was from Tim Legler, so we're going to give him credit on that
I trust it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust that.
Sad. And he had a good game in this one.
He did.
I do think
his shooting is still very important for this team, to where it's like imagining a situation where you just didn't have that guy at all, or like if you replaced him with a total non-shooter, then it's kind of tough to stomach. At the same time, Royce O'Neal's the biggest enigma to me on the Suns. He's got the worst net rating swing of any of the guys who actually play minutes. There are a couple guys who only play garbage time who are worse. But like the on-off, I posted it the other day. This was before tonight's game where he played well. But the team is 16 points worse per 100 possessions with Royce on the floor this season. That's tough. Mm-hmm. There's not really another way to stomach that. Like, what is it exactly? I don't think it's any one thing with him. Yeah, the defense isn't as good as we're expecting. If he plays power forward, the rebounding certainly isn't good enough. But also, like, that's not really his fault. That's a roster construction thing. You could say the same thing of when Dillon Brooks plays power forward. Dillon Brooks is a terrible rebounder for his size. So I think the rebounding thing that maybe we're going to talk a little bit more later in this episode when we talk about our Christmas wish lists, but that's a lot of things. It's not just Royce. But when Royce doesn't hit his threes, he's not doing much.
It's really tough, too, because I think the sort of upward trajectory of Ryan Dunn has stalled a little bit. Do you agree with that? He has been kind of bad at times in the last few games, Ryan Dunn.
When was the last time Ryan Dunn had a good offensive game?
I can't even remember.
That's a concerning thing to say about a sophomore. Now, I don't think we've ever been under the impression, like, let's be honest, of who Ryan Dunn is. He was drafted 29th overall. But I don't think there's any significant difference in Ryan Dunn's offensive game from year 1 to year 2. And we are a third of the way through the season. So, like, that's not great to say that. I don't know when Ryan's last good offensive game was. I can't remember it. Probably one where he had like 5 offensive rebounds. I don't know when that was, though.
I do think it's good that his defense looks better. I think his defense looks better this season. I think he's playing better defense overall. I think when he's dodging screens, when he's trying to move around screens, he's just gotten better at that this season. He got screened a little too easily last year and then was taken out of plays because of it. This year, I think he's done a much better job at that. Overall, I think his defense has been a little bit more physical. It's sort of the influence of Dillon Brooks, right? He's just better at the little things that make him good at defense. But yeah, it's just we haven't seen much more from him. I really would like it if he was just a better finisher in transition. I really think that would impact his game significantly. Obviously, better free throw shooting for him, which has gotten better so far this season.
That's true. His free throw shooting is better. It's at 70% on low volume, but that's much better than where it was last year. Also, now that I'm looking at his game log, he has not scored in double figures since he came back from injury, but that did remind me that he came back from injury.
It's true.
And that was a wrist injury. So I do want to cut him a little bit of slack for the fact that it was a wrist injury, especially as we talk about things on, I believe, his shooting hand.
Yeah, it was.
When we talk about things like shooting and finishing in transition, I think that's very relevant. Even so, he hasn't scored 10 points in a game since November 16th. That's 5 weeks ago. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that Ryan Dunn in year 2 has not been lighting the world on fire.
If he has been playing better, he probably would have started this game. I think Royce O'Neal has Jordan Ott's trust, and I really do think he still deserves it, even if some of those stats point the wrong direction for him. Sometimes he's just on the floor during a really bad run, and I think that's partially because of him, sometimes as well, don't get me wrong, Royce, but I do think that Ryan Dunn has not done enough to steal all those minutes from him in any way, or steal a significant amount of those minutes from him in any way. I will say the trade deadline's in February, right? And like Royce O'Neal is one of those guys that if you think the roller coaster is on the way down, right, instead of flat or going up in any way, now might be your chance to find a way to get a little younger and find players who could get better. On the Patreon podcast, I pitched a Jeremy Sohan for Royce O'Neal trade. I'm curious if people like that or dislike that. I think the logic of that's pretty clear. You get a young player, 23 years old, who is going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the season. You have the opportunity to see if he's a good fit on the Suns. He's tall, 6'8". He's a forward who plays good defense, offensively limited, especially compared to Royce O'Neal, but young and has high potential as a defender. And, for the Suns, they find a way to get younger and then have a choice to make about him at the end of the season, restricted free agency and all. Either you lose that and then you have the ability of having a little bit more money to sign guys like Colin Gillespie, or you keep him and you find a way to develop him later. And I think, obviously, the goal would be that he would be a good fit on the Suns. Culture-wise, I think he would be. Like, he's a tough, hard-nosed defender. But I think now, if you're a Suns fan, looking at the trade machine a little bit makes sense. This is not to say that Royce O'Neal's been bad this season overall. I think Royce O'Neal's still been pretty good this season. And just as a guy who's just willing to take a ton of threes. I think it's over 80% of his shot attempts are threes so far. Mm-hmm. And, that's
almost every shot.
It's really valuable to have a guy that's willing to do that. So I do think, you don't have to panic and trade him right away.
Also, two things on Royce, and then I'll get to your trade proposal. Which we did talk about on the Patreon episode. But what I will say about Royce, some of these awesome passes to Mark Williams in transition that I'm praising, some of those are coming from Royce O'Neal, right? So, like, he does objectively bring skills that your average wing, ball skills that your average wing does not have. And I don't want to completely overlook those. It's just tough when, like, that if you get Royce O'Neal coming downhill in a 2-on-1, that can only end one way. Either he's throwing up a floater, which is going to miss, or he gets the lob to the big man, whoever that is. But, like, he's just not a finisher and never will be. On your trade, I think that's the first time I've ever heard you take a trade that you proposed on Patreon and actually bring it to the main feed. And I'm wondering if
are you calling me a coward?
I'm saying, are you disappointed that no one told you that you were an idiot in the Discord? Like, where did that come from?
No,
you yearn for the feedback from the people.
I think this Royce O'Neal conversation has deserved a main feed conversation, I guess, in a way, right? Because it's just, sometimes it's a little concerning, and you know, we're not exactly a podcast to not milk trade seasons. We enjoy trades. We did. Last year we probably did 400 fake trades on the podcast.
The shit out of trade season. Let's be entirely honest about who we are here.
Yeah, it's coming. It'll be here eventually. Let's talk about
Christmas.
A Christmas wish list. Yeah. Well, so this is something we're stealing directly from the broadcast. I'm not going to pretend like we're not. The broadcast today did a Christmas wish list, and I said, hey, that's a good idea. I'm curious what Sam and I can come up with on the spot. I didn't make a wish list exactly, but I want to just think about it. I thought about it during the game, and I'll think about it now, but I do think let's just take health off the table. That's an obvious, like, number one, right?
Shit, that was my number one.
I mean, I'm sorry, but like, it's just, it was theirs too. You know, like K-Ray had health number one. You know, EJ had health number one. Amanda had health number two. Like, that's just an obvious one. Like, you just got to say.
K-Ray has made me laugh. Because friend of the pod, by the way, I should say friend of the pod. But it made me laugh because he had health number one and then rebounds number two, which obviously he didn't say it like this, but like the way it kind of sounded was like, you know, everyone needs to get healthy. Everyone have like, you know, a prosperous 2026 and also grab a fucking rebound. Like, you know, some of the frustration with the weaknesses of this team is kind of funny. I have rebounding on my list too. I think that's an interesting thing to talk about. For like what is ailing the Suns.
Yeah.
What is the nitty gritty that they can really work on? Yeah, it's rebounding.
They got out rebounded against the Warriors twice, and the Lakers in the previous game out rebounded in, I think, 3 games where they should not have been out rebounded. And I think honestly, earlier in the season, they wouldn't have been. So I think you could say, or you could at least make the case that they've gotten a little bit worse at rebounding lately for some reason.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is the issue? Do you know? Okay, I'm really kind of confused by it. I mean, with the Warriors taking Mark Williams out of the paint is a big factor, right? They don't have a lot of great rebounders. He's by far their best rebounder.
Yeah, and with the Suns, I mean, they're a one big team. You know, a lot of these teams now are two big teams. But if you take Mark Williams out of the paint, to your point, I think the real issue are the small forwards who you're playing at power forward. This is why I think Rasheer Fleming is going to be so important to the Suns. Maybe, you know, 5 years from now and not this season, but like this is the idea behind it, so that you don't have to constantly be playing Dylan Brooks, who gets 3 rebounds a game at power forward, or Royce O'Neal or Ryan Dunn even. You know, I think Dunn is a little better at it, but all of the bleeding defensive rebounds, because that's what this really is. The Suns are, and I wanted to ask actually if you knew about this too. The Suns are, believe it or not in unique company with their rebounding profile this year, call it that. There are 3 teams in the NBA, like the Suns, that are very good offensive rebounding teams and very bad defensive rebounding teams. 3. It's not just Phoenix. You can guess the other 2 if you want. They would be pretty hard to guess, I think.
Cleveland?
Not Cleveland.
Okay.
Boston.
Oh, that's interesting.
And Portland.
That's pretty interesting.
And
I think Boston and Phoenix kind of play a little bit similarly so far this year. I
mean, they're all teams, you know, that are overcompensating for something. They're saying we're small. Look at Boston.
Portland small?
Outside of center, they are.
Yeah,
so they're all similar teams in that they have centers, Portland gets a ton of offensive rebounds through Donovan Clingan and Robert Williams, the third.
Yeah, right.
But outside of that, who's their starting power forward? Isn't it Jeremy Grant still?
I mean, it would be Grant or Kamara, I guess you could say.
Or Tumani Kamara. These guys are not good rebounders for their size. I mean, they have Denny, too. I don't think Denny's a particularly good rebounder for his size, honestly. I think he's fine. But, like, a lot of these guys, they have overzealous guards. Drew Holiday, in the case of Portland. Derek White, in the case of Boston. Overzealous guards who are going to crash the glass to compensate for the fact that they know the rest of the team is not that good at rebounding. And so, as a result, Portland, 3rd in offensive rebounding percentage in the NBA. Boston, 5th. Phoenix, 6th. On the other side, defensive rebounding percentage, Boston, 25th. Phoenix, 28th. And Portland, 29th. It's interesting because, like, I really don't think many examples of this, and I'd be curious if someone looked this up. This is not how most teams operate in NBA history. Like, I think what we're witnessing here, the fact that it's not just the Suns, but it's actually 3 teams to me, is what makes this conversation interesting. Because actually, I think it's low-key the birth of a new philosophy in the NBA. Most teams in the history of the NBA are either pretty good at rebounding, which means you're pretty good at both offensive and defensive rebounding, or you're pretty bad. And obviously, there are going to be teams that are better at one than the other. But this idea that we are so bad at defensive rebounding that we're going to put all of our energy into the offensive rebounding to try and compensate and, like, neutralize the possession battle to the extent possible. That is something that obviously all these teams would love to be, like, top 5 in both.
Right.
But I think they're pushing against the fact that they know that there's a size differential that they need to beat back in any average game against an average opponent. And that's where it's coming from. And, I think maybe that's just the new NBA and it's modern coaches thinking in a modern way about basketball.
Right. Yeah, that's a really interesting strategy because I would like to, it might be entirely personnel related just as you're hypothesizing there, but I'm curious, like, if there is some sort of basketball strategy that I'm not really picking up on when it comes to that, because you would think that it would be really, like, prioritizing transition defense is usually the decision that's made when it comes to whether or not to chase offensive rebounds, but that's not necessarily the Suns are a pretty good transition defense team still. They have the ability of finding a way to balance offensive rebounding with transition defense. And yeah, that is a credit, I think, to the type of guys that are on the roster, though. Ryan Dunn, Jordan Goodwin, Colin Gillespie, guys who somehow sneakily get offensive rebounds in a way that just bumps up their numbers 1 or 2 a game. That probably shoots them up the ranking a little bit. Rebounding is a good one because I think that's what's been ailing, just as you said, the Suns lately. I think the number one for me, outside of health, Devin Booker's 3-point shot.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple. I just want that to come back. I would like to see Devin Booker hit threes again. It's more fun when they do that. I do think he has the ability of being a pretty great player, even if he's shooting 30-ish%, but not, like you said, not in a way that would make you confident that they'll be great against great teams pretty regularly. He has to be a 3-level scorer in order to do that. So obviously, I think that is a big one for me. And it's like not much analysis there. He just has to hit him. The more he hits him, the better he can be.
I already said it earlier in this episode. Like, I have the same exact thing, which just I want them to make open shots. So that means Book, and for me, it also means Dylan Brooks. Just make open threes.
Yeah, I do wonder how much Jalen Green will have an impact on that. Just another guy who can get downhill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's the wide open threes that he's missing. So, like, it's not even entirely that it's just, it is a small sample size, but, I would like to see more of those going. Maybe if he gets more wide open threes, those will start dropping more consistently.
Also, as I consider it security a little bit, because I don't know if we can count on Colin Gillespie to shoot 42% from 3 all season long. It's great that he is, but him and Royce and Grayson are all around 39 or 40. I think those guys are allowed to have a slump at some point too, which if that happens, we need Book and Brooks to be pulling their weight. And Ryan Dunn too. That would be
Yeah.
great if Ryan Dunn made threes.
That was one of the ones I considered. I think we already had a Ryan Dunn conversation, but just to show something, I think it's fair, like for a second-year player, I think it's pretty fair for them not to be great immediately coming out in their second year. But as the season goes on, you kind of have to start seeing something from them. And for him, I really would like to see something in the second half of the season that's coming up. I would like to see him start picking it up and just playing well, showing us a little bit more offensively and even defensively, because I do think there's even another level he can reach defensively. And then if he does those things, he can start for this team. Like, he is a player who can start on this team, which we, by the way, thought he would. And it does not appear that even when they're fully healthy that he's going to be in the starting lineup going forward. What else you got?
I want Jamari Bouye to prosper. That's number 3.
I love it.
That's the last thing on my Christmas wish list. I want him personally to prosper. Merry Christmas, Jamari Bouye.
I love it. I'm going to say for me, I would like Kaman Malawach to earn important minutes in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Not just because like 3 guys are injured.
I don't want him to be gifted, right? I want them to be healthy, so I don't want them to be gifted. I want the Suns to say, we need to play Kaman Malawach because he's earned it. And I would like to see it this season. And I'm not saying he's got to play every game.
That's a tall order, in my opinion.
Yes,
what you're asking for.
I agree.
But okay.
I agree. But it's a wish list after all, right? I just want to see it this season and maybe just in a few games. Like, I'm not saying he needs to play every game. I think the conversation early on for a lot of Suns fans was just play him, just play him, just play him. That's died down, I think, right? It doesn't seem like people are just begging for his... Because Oso Ighodaro is playing better. That's a big part of it.
I think a couple things happen. Oso's playing all right. They're winning. Like, that's the biggest thing. Right. They're winning against good teams. Also, I think some people got spooked when Kaman got sent down to the G League and they saw with their own eyes that he struggled a bit for a couple games. You know, it would be different if he went down to... And he is playing better now.
Yeah,
but
3 for 6 in the last game from 3.
Mm-hmm. But if he went down to the G League and was like immediately had 38 points and 25 rebounds, people would be like, okay, what the fuck? Just play him in the NBA. It wasn't like that. So I think people understand that it's going to be a project.
Yeah. Christmas Day games. I'm going to read the 5 games that are going to be on Christmas Day to you here. Cavs versus Knicks, 10 a.m. This is Phoenix time. Spurs versus Thunder.
Oh, God, you scared me for a second.
Spurs versus Thunder, 12:30. Mavericks Warriors, 3 p.m.
Spurs versus Thunder again?
Yeah, I know.
The third one in like 2 weeks?
Did you see that the Spurs just demolished them today?
Wait, what happened? Is that game over?
Yeah, I think they won by like 25 points or so.
Wait, hold on. Oh my God, everyone played today. Let's go! Yeah. They won by 20. Leading scorer, Keldon Johnson. Oh my God. I know this is a Suns podcast, and in a way it's like feels dirty to be rooting for the Spurs. But there is something right now about like you beat the Thunder, you unite America.
Yes, that's right. 100%. Yeah.
So,
I think we're all rooting against them except for OKC. Yeah. So Mavericks Warriors.
Or sorry, that's what I meant. You beat the Thunder, you unite America. Yep.
Exactly. Mavericks Warriors, that is the dud game if you ask me, but we can talk about that in a sec. Rockets Lakers, and then Timberwolves Nuggets. I think in a way, I think you can make the case that the Spurs Thunder is the only really interesting game in this matchup. Other than Wolves Nuggets, those are always pretty good. But Cavs Knicks, the Cavs have not been good. There's something weird going on. They lost Jordan Ott. They lost all their luck. The Spurs Thunder, I think, will be good because those teams are starting to develop some sort of budding rivalry there. Mavericks have been awful all season, playing a little better now, but the Warriors haven't exactly been great either. So Mavericks Warriors is like, that's just a dud to me.
Yeah, it's a dud game, unless you want to watch Cooper Flagg, who, to be honest, is playing really well, but I haven't watched a ton of this season.
Yeah, that's true. And I probably will watch all of these games.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the scores right now. This game must have just ended. The Mavs beat the Nuggets tonight, and Cooper Flagg had 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists.
Dude,
that was tonight.
Dang it, man. Just get one more of each. I need 2. I need 2. This is all Patreon stuff, but I need 2 triple-doubles by Cooper Flagg to win one of my better bets that I made.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So if he does 2, I might beat you this year. That's my goal. Rockets, Lakers.
It would be your first year.
That's right. Rockets, Lakers. I think that game could be good. The Rockets have been struggling lately. We didn't even talk about it, but they lost to the Pelicans and the Kings. recently. The two worst teams in the West.
That's another one. By the way, yeah. We should talk about the Pelicans in a second because that's our next back-to-back.
Yeah.
So many back-to-backs against the same opponents.
They're not.
this year.
There is a day between those games.
Sorry,
yeah.
by back-to-back, I just mean scheduling 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Is that normal? Like,
no.
Is my memory failing me, or are there more of these than there used to be?
I think there's more. Yeah.
Is that like a we want less airline miles thing? Like,
No,
where's it coming from?
Like the Warriors were home and home.
Is it the NBA Cup that does?
Yeah,
this?
I bet that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's probably some like weird, like, I don't know, rodeo. There's like a Spurs rodeo thing. Like, and sometimes the Suns have things.
Bro, okay, I know this is not interesting podcasting. I'm sorry, guys. We're just talking about games that are out of date by the time you're listening to this. But can we just say the Rockets are losing? They're down by 13 to the Clippers in the fourth quarter right now. And I say what you will about the Lakers and not being fun to watch, and Luka foul baiting, and Reeves foul baiting, and whatever. I will be sat for the Houston Lakers game to root for the Los Angeles Lakers. Because if the Houston Rockets collapse is here, then I am here for it.
It's begun, it seems. Yeah, right. I'm cool with it. Last game, Timberwolves Nuggets, yeah.
You ever see the meme? I don't even know if I'm going to expose myself for a second. It's a meme. It's like a African politician. Don't know what country, I'm sorry. But he says, corruption is only bad. I'm not going to do the accent. Don't worry. We're not going there. He says, corruption is only bad if I am not a part of that corruption. That is how I feel about hate watching the NBA. I need to be a part of it. And to watch the Houston Rockets collapse, I'm there. Anyway,
I think that's a good place to end this one. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I hope you all have a great Christmas, great holiday season in general. We'll be back some point. I'm really grateful to not have to record on Christmas Day, so that's pretty nice. But we'll be back at some point in the next few days or so. And yeah, the Suns have some easier games coming up. We'll see how those go. So thanks, everyone, for listening. If you want to join our Patreon, patreon.com/thetimeline. Extra episodes every week. Anything else, Sam?
That's it.
Thanks, everyone.